Florida takes down number 9 Texas. Billy Napier keeps his job another week. We're going to keep saying it. But Florida upsets Texas. Your thoughts?
I have two things with this Texas team. One, I know that we just talked about how Penn State's done. I don't think the same is with Texas. And I want to compare them to a team last year that got to the college football playoff that had a lot of similarities. Tennessee last year had a starting quarterback that everybody hyped up to be a Heisman Trophy finalist, and everybody was expecting great things from him. And then as he started to play hard teams on his schedule, he struggled. And they finished with 2 losses when they lost to Georgia, and they suffered the insanely ridiculous loss that they suffered to Arkansas. Inexplicable. They still finished the season strong enough and with a good enough of a record to get to the college football playoff. I'm merely saying that to say that just because Arch isn't playing well, just because this team has not played well to this point and they suffered this loss, does not mean that they're out of the mix. Does that require them to completely run the table on their stretch of games remaining? Yes. Yes, absolutely. And that's going to be a difficult task. The other thing I have to bring up, Blake, I think it's in Arch's best interest if he transfers at the end of the season, if he doesn't start to play better. His issues have nothing to do with his talent. It has nothing to do with his football IQ. It has nothing to do with his instincts. It has everything to do with watching a kid who looks freaked out, who looks overwhelmed, and who looks like everything is way too much for him. Blake, I really think that this issue for him is only going to get resolved if he goes somewhere where there's less pressure on his shoulders. And I think that Arch Manning ending up transferring to a program that is much less focused on than Texas is going to be the best path for him playing more freely and playing better. I am not calling
Manning go where he doesn't have spotlight.
He's still going to, well, it's just like Nico still had eyes on him when he got to UCLA. And that's a tough question to ask. I don't know off the top of my head, but Texas and Arch Manning combined created the gigantic media storm that it is.
All right, well, let me just say this first. The more talented team to me won yesterday.
I don't think that Texas is less talented than Florida.
To me, I saw an offensive line against what we thought was the best in front 7 in the country in the first half, picked them up and pushed them around. Florida fans are probably pissed right now because Jaden Ball finally got over 20 touches, and they won. They won. They've been screaming for him to do that. He had 27 carries, by the way. And in that, they physically dominated a Texas team up front, Joe. This isn't like, oh, well, they were tired or they were out of this. They pushed them around in the first half, and Jaden Ball went off. Went completely off. Now, did they run it the way that I think that they wanted to, or did Texas do very bad? No, not really, I guess. They didn't do very bad. But they gave up 159 rushing yards, and Jaden Ball had over 100 of them. And Duke Clark on both of those tosses had some really tough yardage, and they took it right to Texas. Joe, I saw at DB versus Florida wide receivers, I saw what 2 highly talented and 5-star receivers look like. Texas, you had a pair. That's not what yours looked like. Dallas Wilson and Vernon Brown, by far, were the best receivers on the field yesterday, to me. I don't think Ryan Wingo's out the top 3, but those 2 guys, and by the way, the first game of the season and of his career for Dallas Wilson, who had 6 catches, 111 yards, and 2 touchdowns, and the freakish one that he made along the sideline on a beautiful throw by Lagway, who we talked about going into this game, what quarterback is going to be back or find themselves back. It was DJ. The interception he had was because his arm got hit and the ball fluttered. He didn't make wrong decisions. He was pretty damn exceptional all day. Joe, to me, the more talented team won in this one. And I can't believe I'm saying this. Texas got pushed around by that experienced offensive line who finally showed up. Well, Blake, they only ran for 4.3 yards per carry. Yeah, that team is still very good. But when they needed to run and needed to put things away, Joe, they did. in reference to Arch Manning, I'll say this. The opposite happened for him. The opposite. How in the Rudy Poo hell does your running backs combined have 10 rushes? A quarterback that is struggling, literally, does not have protection at all. You're not even attempting to run the football. And then, Joe, when we saw Quinn Ewers last year, where was the great play calling by Sark to give Arch some action on some bubble screens and do some extensions of the run? 10 touches for the Texas running backs. I got to call it like I see it. I think Sark got outcoached by Napier. Napier had the better game plan offensively than Sark did because he's not putting Arch in favorable positions at all. Joe, he's a young quarterback that's on the road and struggling. And what do? You make him drop back every play. In the second half, almost literally. The only run that you had on one of the scoring drives was the Wisner touchdown. Joe, Sark is not only is Arch looking off, I got to be real with you. I think from a play calling standpoint, Sark looks off. And you can't say that because he's one of the best play callers in the game. You're not doing anything to help him either.
So, okay, part of me with that, Sark does obviously deserve to be criticized because this offense is not played to its level, and he's supposed to be this brilliant offensive play caller. But at the same time, this is also part of the reason why I don't think that Arch fits in at Texas. If this marriage between Sarkisian, who has activated a lot of really impactful, talented quarterbacks, and a quarterback with the skill set that Arch Manning has, if that's not working, then it's not going to just suddenly find itself. It's not going to suddenly fix itself. I agree with you, though. For some reason, he keeps getting away from running the ball. And one of the things, there's this one clip of him at a coaching clinic talking about how it's always been an emphasis for him to have 1,000-yard rusher at Texas.
He's not going to come close. He's not going to remotely come close.
To have Cedric Baxter back and to not even be turning to him is very concerning. I will say, for Florida's sake, is he?
Mm-hmm.
I don't even register that. It goes to show how messed up the running back situation is. My point, though, what I was going to say.
I mean, look, some of this is why I'm giving Arch a pass. Because literally in offseason, I said, listen, you can anoint him.
Yeah, but hold on. The sacks that he took were
okay, then show me on film where he's not got guys completely covered in there being separation. Because I'm going to tell you, I watched the whole game.
Okay, I get that, but at the same time, he took 6 sacks, and a lot of those sacks were him just holding the ball really long. If there's nobody open, run. He's a good athlete. Like, why is he not getting out of it? There were a lot of self-inflicted sacks that he took.
I don't disagree with that, but this is the call that he's got coming in. I mean, with all due respect, he's not the one calling in shots for Arch Manning. Sark is, with a bad offensive line. He's making them, I mean, the 3 times I remember in the second half that he got sacked, Joe, one of them was on a 3rd and 2, and there was nothing underneath that was called for him. There is no check down. He's trying to throw the ball deep. I don't get it. I don't get it. I don't understand what Sark's doing. Is it fair to blame Arch on some of this? Yes, the 2 interceptions clearly threw in a double cover.
The blame goes on both of them. I think that it's even.
But Arch is exactly. Arch is wearing the blame of what I think overall is a problem. They're not playing well anywhere on the offense. Receiver, quarterback, offensive line, run game. All of it has been bad. What might be still a really damn good defense. Joe, I got to turn to the other side here before we move on to the last game. Florida's just a good team. Florida's a good team, man. And
but what does that even mean with Billy Napier and the mistakes that they have?
Don't know.
He even almost sold the game and
I like Billy Napier. Game, yes.
I like Billy Napier more than most people. And I think that
Says the guy I followed on Twitter, not Billy Napier.
Shut up. No, but seriously though, like I like him more than most because he's very clearly got a team that supports him and that is going to rally around him. And this team played like they were supposed to at the beginning of the year. And if they played like this and they had Dallas Wilson to start the year, who knows how we'd be talking about them. But the problem is they're too far gone.
No, hold on. When I say they're a good team, I'm not coming in here saying they're making the playoff or anything. But you look at Joe, you talked about earlier with Vandy. You said, oh, this is a good 8-4 team that everybody thinks it's scrappy. Newsflash, that team's actually Florida. Joe, there are not a lot of teams in the country that want to see Florida on their schedule right now. Now, I'm not saying you're not going to beat them and that Billy's not going to get in his own way. That's not what I'm saying at all. They got dudes. I
think you're being like a little too. We can't be sitting here hyping up this Florida team after how bad they started the season.
No. Is Dallas Wilson the 5-star and Vernell Brown not dudes? Is DJ Lagway not a guy that we thought was going to be a dude?
Hold
on. Do they not have multiple draft picks along their offense and defensive line? And I got to be real with you. Vandy ain't got none of that. Vandy does not have those athletes.
Okay, but we're not talking about Vanderbilt, though. The point is, though, Blake, is that that's all nice, and that was all what we projected at the beginning of the year. But are we just going to immediately buy into this team after one game? They've been inconsistent.
If you listen to anything that I've said over the entire season with them has been Billy screwing up, and he's constantly screwing up, and he's going to cost himself his own job. When you turn on the film, they got NFL dudes all over the place. And that's indicative on Billy. But it does not change the fact that they got dudes, like high-level dudes. So take that whatever you will. However, Dallas Wilson's going to be one of the best receivers in the country along with Vernell Brown.
Sure.
Vernon Brown.
I don't disagree with that. I think there's a lot of rosters that have dudes on them that don't play well.
They also don't have Billy Napier as their head coach either. Like, let me ask you this. What would Lane do with those dudes? You would come in here tonight.
Lose to Kentucky.
Nah, he didn't have them dudes like that offensively.
Last year,
literally his top 2 receivers got hurt out for the year. He didn't have them. He didn't have those level of dudes.
Okay, yeah, Trey Harris was banged up against Kentucky, which I'll give.
No, I mean he missed the remainder of the year.
But against one game. But against Kentucky, though, is what I was referring to. I don't know. Regardless, I have no idea what's going to happen with this coaching situation. I have no idea what's going to happen with Florida.
Okay.